I'm not proud of what I'm about to share, but sometimes the truth is too heavy to keep locked away. It's a story of temptation, guilt, and the choices that define who we are. I didn't plan for any of this to happen, but once it began, there was no going back. It started with what should have been an ordinary job: babysitting, a way to earn a little extra money while I focused on my studies. The family seemed perfect at first glance. The mother, Emily, was kind, but often preoccupied with work. The father, David, was in his early 40s, charming in a way that made him stand out. And the kids, sweet, innocent, completely oblivious to the storm brewing around them. From the beginning, I felt an unspoken connection with David. It was subtle at first, a lingering glance, a shared laugh over something trivial. I told myself it was nothing, that I was reading too much into it. But as the weeks went by, the dynamic between us shifted. The conversations grew longer, the smiles warmer, and then there were the moments when his hand would brush against mine, lingering just a second too long. Each time, my pulse quickened, a mix of excitement and dread swirling in my chest. One evening, Emily called to say she would be working late, leaving David and me alone in the house after the kids had gone to bed. I remember feeling nervous, though I couldn't quite put my finger on why. I tried to focus on the movie playing on the TV, but I was acutely aware of David sitting on the other end of the couch, closer than he normally would. "You've been such a help to us," he said, his voice soft. "I don't know how we managed before you." I smiled, trying to ignore the way his words made my stomach flip. "I'm happy to help. Your kids are great." He nodded, his gaze lingering on me a moment longer than necessary. "You're more than just a babysitter, you know. You've become part of the family." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I didn't know how to respond, so I simply nodded, turning my attention back to the TV. But the tension between us was palpable, and I knew we were teetering on the edge of something we couldn't take back. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. There were stolen moments in the kitchen, whispers exchanged in the hallway, touches that sent shivers down my spine. Each time, I told myself it would be the last, that I would draw a line and stick to it. But each time, the line blurred until it disappeared entirely. The night it all came to a head is etched into my memory. Emily was out of town on a business trip, leaving David and me alone in the house for the weekend. I'd put the kids to bed and was cleaning up the kitchen when he walked in, a glass of wine in hand. "You've been working hard," he said, offering me the glass. "You deserve a break." I hesitated, knowing I should refuse. But the look in his eyes, the way he leaned against the counter, his shirt unbuttoned just enough to reveal a hint of his chest. It was too much. I took the glass, our fingers brushing as he handed it to me. We stood there in silence for a moment, the air between us crackling with tension. And then, before I could think, before I could stop myself, I leaned in and kissed him. It was a moment of weakness, of surrender, and it changed everything. From that night on, we were caught in a web of secrets and lies. Every stolen kiss, every whispered promise, pulled us deeper into a world we couldn't escape. I knew it was wrong. I knew the damage it could cause. But I couldn't stop. He was like a drug, and I was hopelessly addicted. The guilt weighed heavily on me, but so did the thrill. I found myself looking forward to the nights Emily would work late or go out of town. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't help it. And David, he was just as caught up in it as I was. We were reckless, careless, and it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. The day Emily found out was the day my world shattered. I'd left my phone on the counter while I was in the bathroom, and she'd seen the messages. When I came back, she was standing there, her face pale, her eyes filled with disbelief. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. I tried to explain, to apologize, but there was nothing I could say to make it right. The damage was done. She fired me on the spot, telling me to leave and never come back. As I packed my things, David stood in the corner, silent and ashamed. He didn't defend me, didn't fight for me. And in that moment, I realized how foolish I'd been to think he ever would. The aftermath was brutal. I lost my job, my reputation, and any sense of self-respect I'd had. I tried to move on, to rebuild my life, but the scars of what happened stayed with me. I've spent countless nights lying awake, replaying everything in my mind, wondering how I could have been so blind. This is my story. It's not a happy one, and it's not one I'm proud of. But it's the truth. A cautionary tale of temptation, betrayal, and the choices that define us. I've learned the hard way that some lines should never be crossed, no matter how alluring they may seem.